Ralph Ellison was a great American author born in Oklahoma City. He earned his fame with his award winning novel titled Invisible Man, which was published in 1952. Ralph Ellison wrote about the African American experience in racist America. We see similarities between Ellison's novel Invisible Man and his short story King of the Bingo Game that suggest that the short story is a precursor or a shorter version of the novel. For example, in both the short story and the novel, the main characters remain nameless, which allows them to represent a group of people rather than just tell one man's story. King of the Bingo Game is set during the Great Migration era. This was a time where African Americans from the South were packing up their lives and heading north for what they expected to be the promised land. They were leaving the South to escape the suffering that they had experienced under the Jim Crow laws, as well as the terrors brought by the Ku Klux Klan. Moving to the North also brought hope of new opportunities. In the story, King of the Bingo Game, a man who has migrated to New York City from the South is desperate to have power to control his fate and that of his wife, Laura. In the beginning of the story, the man says, "I'm just broke because I got no birth certificate to get a job, and Laura about to die because we got no money for a doctor." We live in a country that sets African Americans up to fail. For example, the man in the story does not have a birth certificate, which means that he does not exist. So without a job, the man has no means of taking care of himself or getting his wife the help that she needs. Although African Americans have been set up to fail, many of them turn to luck, as chance is the only way out. In the story, Ellison takes the bingo game and uses it as a symbol for that chance. To his surprise, the man wins the bingo game, and he is suddenly overwhelmed with this new hope of being in control of his fate. He felt vaguely that his whole life was determined by the bingo wheel, not only that which would happen now that he was at last before it, but all that had gone before, since his birth and his mother's birth and the birth of his father. The bingo jackpot prize on this particular night is only $36.90. For the man in the story, winning the bingo game was worth much more than just $36.90. He figured that as long as he held the button, he had the power to control his fate. This button also gave him the power to save his wife. He then comes to the revelation that the button is God, and the people in the crowd think he's crazy. The rowdiness of the crowd was still not enough to discourage him, for as long as he pressed the button, he was the man who pressed the button, who held the prize, who was the king of bingo. While still standing on stage and still holding on to the button, the man slips into a daydream where he is running from a train while holding his wife. While desperately trying to save their life, he is being watched and laughed at, similar to what's going on in the movie theater. It's not much of a surprise that the man's luck runs out on stage. The man was not surprised that the wheel had landed on the 00. However, sadly, although he won, he didn't win anything. The systems and prejudices in the United States are enough to drive a man crazy and leave him desperate just for a little bit of control over his life.